Hello everyone. Today we thought we would bring you another global hallmark, and you might have seen this hallmark in some other people's videos or their photos, but I don't think anyone has ever classified these or put them into a catalog like we have. So today we want to show you another one of these phenomenon that seems to reoccur all around the world with the same stonework that we see the nubs in. Now we call this phenomenon filler stones, and I'm joined today by Phil from the Ancient Alternative View, and we thought we would go through some really good examples from a few different sites and try to convince you guys that this is part of the greater architectural phenomenon. So Phil, how are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for the introduction, and welcome everyone. And the global phenomenon that is the filler stones, and we're going to introduce you to what we call the micro block, which was named aptly by one of our team members, Santo Barta, so thanks very much for that. And it is going to become apparent why we've separated the names, because you get a filler stone and you will also get what's called a micro block, and I think you will all recognise these when you see them. So where we're going to start our filler stone journey today, Andrew?
We're going to go to Easter Island, and we have one of the megalithic ahu, the platforms at Easter Island. There aren't that many megalithic ahu, most of them are smaller stones, but we have this one that is very megalithic, very precise, very precision joinery, and then we have a very special feature at the middle of this ahu, almost like it's a deliberate reason for the whole ahu to exist. So we'll pull up the first photo. This is a great photo, really good resolution, and you can see there's right away this L-shaped block, and you see that L-shaped block in lots of other architecture around the world. And inset at the corner of this L-shaped block is a smaller stone, still precisely fit, the same stone as the original, and it's filling in the little gap created by that L-shaped block. So hence filler stone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it seems that from the filler stones, and you'll see this in other examples, they base the start of the build and come outward with polygonal stone, which we'll move on to in different areas of South America shortly. But here you can almost see a surface treatment on the bottom right-hand block, almost like the bevel-edged sort of treatments that we have seen on other stones before.
That's
so
right.
There's not just the filler stone there, there's the megalithic aspect to these stones.
Yeah.
And also maybe a surface treatment over the top of it, like our bevel-edged. I mean, it's not that clear here, but we'll see better examples of it as we move.
Yeah, I agree, and it almost looks like that surface treatment goes around the filler stone itself. So it's almost like maybe part of the finished process around the filler stone. And yeah, we'll show a more close-up photo here. First, here's a great photo by Brian Forrester's wife, and pointing it out so you can see the size, right? These are pretty large blocks, and even the filler stone itself is still pretty big at this point. You can move that around by hand, but that's a decent size. And then next we have the close-up, and you can see here this surface treatment, right? So it's got like a pitted nature to it, and you can see the pitting.
Almost like the bevel block pitted middles, isn't it?
Exactly. Exactly, and you can see how it kind of condenses towards the filler stone. There's less pitting, and then right around this rim there's almost no pitting. It's very smooth, very precise. Everything's locked in very well.
Definitely a marker for the ancient builders in this case, as we're going to see worldwide here, starting off the course here at Easter Island.
I think so. I think this is a clear marker stone, and that's the reason for the ahu. So you can see in this photo, this is kind of what most of the ahus look like. They're semi-megalithic, but they're much rougher, and there's other stones inset, and I'm not sure if these stones can be classified as filler stones, because without the precise fitment.
It's a lot more crude, isn't it?
A lot more
crude build than the more megalithic stuff that we see. It's a less purposeful filler stone if it is, but it's almost like regionally we see perhaps cargo cults copy what they'd seen before, and we do see a lot of filler stones in later work, don't we?
You're right. So, you see parts of it that look pretty good, and there might be instances of filler stones, original filler stones, but some of these others, yeah, like Phil said, anyone could come through after the fact and fill in some of these holes with loose stones laying around. So
yeah, so we can say they are of filler stone nature, but is it the most ancient of filler stones? In this instance, on those, then we'd have to say no, wouldn't we?
right, yeah, this might have just been an ancient restoration effort, but the one in the previous photo, that's deliberate. That was meant to be there. That was part of the original build, and there's really no other way to get that block in there like that.
No.
Okay, now we're going to jump over to Peru, where at Silustani we have a very interesting wall segment. You might want to call this an ahu, ceremonial platform. Up to you.
Yeah. Another strange phenomena we can see on the Andri that people know us for is we've got nubs on here as well as a slight polygonal nature to these blocks.
Exactly. Yeah, and this kind of forms some kind of pattern. You know, these aren't for lifting, obviously. The other blocks don't have them. These were left on up here for a reason. Some of them have pretty quirky shapes. They've almost like little
crescent on they compared to other nubs we've seen.
Yeah, they have like crescent shapes to them and other circular shapes. Yeah. One has a hole through it. That's interesting. But you'll see, first of all, the size again. So we have a person standing here for scale, the exact same size as the Ahu on Easter Island. These blocks, and again the L shape. You can see the L shape of the block. But then right here in the middle, if you zoom in, it's almost hard to see because of how well it fits. There is another filler stone at the corner of an L-shaped block. The opposite corner. So in Easter Island, it was on the right corner, and on the Silustani version, it's on the left corner. And of course, the opening underneath, how about that? That's something the Easter Island Ahu does not have, at least that we know of. We don't think, I haven't seen any entrances underneath those. Not the best photo, but here's a close-up at a different angle. Again, you can see how well it's fit in. And it matches the stone of the original stonework. So it had to have been done.
You can see as well that the nub above it is the same mineralogy as the stone itself. I mean, there's no chance that's a wooden application. It's the stone itself.
No, it's not plastering or anything like that on top. No. That's also original stone. All this is the original stonework.
It's a lot cruder than the other examples of nubs that we've seen, to be quite honest with you. But the filler stone is actually perfect fitment.
It is. It's a very weird, dichotomy there, that you have nubs that we see other places, very precise, squares or the crescent half round shapes, the uniform standardized shape. We see those very precise sometimes, but for some reason here they left them crude, but they obviously could do precision. It's right there in front of us. So I'm not sure why they did that. And then we'll go to some other areas of Peru, like in Cusco. There's lots of walls like this that have the L-shaped blocks, and this is one of the walls in Cusco. I can't track down exactly where this one is, but the same kind of stonework, obviously, and the same hallmark, the same location as the Silustani wall. The left corner of the block has a rectangular filler stone.
I note as well the extremely tight fitment. The builder's application there is absolutely exquisite, and then outward from it comes your polygonal stonework, you see.
That's right.
And on other examples, we'll see that to a large degree.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to follow the same pattern. So was it the same builders, as this is going to be proven as a global phenomenon here?
Exactly. Here's another one from Cusco, and a very interesting filler stone, because it's not rectangular. It's got a very unique shape. It's rounded, but also has some straight lines and some, other
One thing to point out here on the block above it, if you look to the right, it almost seems like little markings to the right-hand side of the stone. Were they later additions, or?
That's right. I believe at Persepolis there's some of these marks in one of the blocks. Little triangular divots, or, like cut marks. I've seen that. And then, of course, this other stone above is dark.
Pitted on the filler stone, you've almost got a pitted middle, like it was beveled, which is extremely excellent work.
Yeah, versus the very smooth, almost polished nature of the darker stone. You can almost see that.
You've almost got a slightly beveled nub block next to it.
You do.
It's almost a very slight nub.
Definitely, yeah, like a bevel line or a lip line that's almost a nub. I'd classify that as a nub because there's others right down here in the same wall.
Yeah.
So, and then yeah, the reverse bevel line, you can see right there where it's incising in, and you can see that edge. It's interesting how they can change it from block to block, either this style of beveling or the lip of material, in and like pulling in or pushing out, right? Yeah. But that filler stone, you're right, that has an interesting texture to the middle, and then the pitting around the edge is a lot smaller. It has that same kind of curving profile on the bottom as the Easter Island one, but then it, the more straight.
Smoothed, curved,
yeah,
perfection on the fitment side of things as well. And it's interesting that that's almost got a beveled nature to it as well.
Agreed. You see other little hints of it down here in some of the other blocks. I mean, some of these other smaller blocks you could classify as filler stones, but, we're trying to make the connection for these blocks, on corners that have been taken out that are completely unnecessary to the structural integrity of the design. Like this is not necessary to put that little block in there. You could have made a square block. This is more of a marker, an esoteric stone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It has more meaning.
Starting point, I mean, you could look outside the box here and see it as a start point to a sentence, maybe. If you were looking at nub walls.
Yeah, if you're reading the stonework, if there's geometry and nubs to reference as a larger concept, a larger message, these might be punctuation points or, focus points. Very good point. And then we'll move on to Machu Picchu. I have a great one from Machu Picchu.
First thing you've got to notice on there around the filler stone is the very large nub to the top left-hand corner, and it seems to be one to the top right as well.
Absolutely.
And then under the marker that's directly underneath it is the filler stone and the polygonal stonework. So just in one area of this photo, without mentioning the trapezoidal window,
exactly,
again another hallmark,
right?
You're looking at 4 or 5 within one photo here.
And even the block that goes around the corner, there's another, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, this is a really good one because, again, this wasn't necessary. They could have gotten a regular shaped block to go in there, but it's on the corner again. This one overlaps a little bit into the next stone. You'll see that. Sometimes it varies. Sometimes it'll be right across the middle. Other times it'll be shifted more to one side, or it'll be completely within the block's dimensions. But here has a little bit of an overlap, and this probably does help to lock it together for earthquake proofing, but there's a lot more going on here than just earthquake proofing. This is
absolutely,
this is a very esoteric design as well as being a very advanced, sturdy structural design. Okay, and then also at Machu Picchu, on one of the back retaining walls, we have another instance of filler stones. And these get pretty small now, so I think now we can start classifying these as micro blocks, right, Phil?
Absolutely, yeah. I think the smaller and more refined blocks that we've been calling filler stones on that micro level, very, very small. There are a lot smaller ones that we're going to show you than these ones, but I think this is a good time. Look at the block as well. I mean, that was very intentional, that micro block there at the top.
Right.
And that's almost as small and as accurate and as good fitment as others that we see in South America. However, when you see those, you'll understand why these fitments can get even better than what we're seeing here.
Agreed. Yeah. I have one other angle of it here. Shows it really good. You can see it fits pretty well. It overlaps both blocks almost right in the middle. It bisects the joinery. So
there was no need for them to do that at all. They could have just made the block completely square.
Sure.
They did that as a marker, maybe, or a builder's mark, which Ziggy Dan would profess as well.
Agreed. And this one, you could make the argument that someone stuck that in there. The fitment isn't as good.
No, it isn't, no.
But I still think that was probably deliberate and part of this design.
I personally would class that as a filler stone rather than a micro block.
Yeah.
That definitely does sort of scream out filler stone, doesn't it? I mean, you could even say that the square block above it may have been an initial filler stone, and then when they've come to that ornate block underneath, they're showing you the more micro version of a filler stone that they can actually do there. And you can see the more purposeful sort of cut out of the 2 blocks to the left and to the right of it. It was very intentional, wasn't it, Andrew?
Yeah. I mean, someone could come along now and put in some stones in these cracks here, and you'd be like, oh, those are filler stones. But it's all about the precision fitment, the original mineralogy. Like, does the stone match the original surrounding mineralogy? I mean, there's a difference here. And I think maybe on this left one it gets a little vague, but on the right, that's pretty, black and white. That's a filler stone.
Categoric, yeah.
Yeah, right. We'll go to Cusco, where we have some more examples, and we'll get into the Coricancha, where there's some great examples. But around the Coricancha and the structures around in Cusco, there's lots of these.
Yeah, absolutely. If you notice on these blocks as well, the surface treatment shows the bevel lines as well as the filler stone. The two blocks have been cut purposefully to accommodate the filler stone.
Again, yes.
Almost to the right-hand side at the top. There may be a faint nub at the top there.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. And as you follow that down, of course, you can see the nubs at the top left. But there's more than one filler stone in this. There's the one at the top right where the young lady stood. There's one by her arm as well. So
I see that.
If these were sentence breakers for the nub walls, just as a theory, then maybe these were intermediate sort of sentence breakers or something along them lines.
Could be. And again, you see that darker stone down there at the end. So again, maybe that's another aspect, is the mineralogy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that. So then we'll go into the Coricancha proper now, and we'll show some really cool examples. So first, with the finger next to it.
I mean, this we've got to categorise as what at Santo in our team suggested is a micro block rather than a filler stone. Yes, by nature it is a filler stone, but it's so small and the fitment so good that you'd have to call this more of a micro block in Andrew and myself's opinion.
Yeah.
So
you're getting down to micro levels of precision. Like, they're going to have to carve this little stone out and the socket for it very well and to very small, tight tolerances to get this in there. And
absolutely.
You see, again, the pitting around it. It kind of concentrates like it did on Easter Island to where there's less pitting.
Why have we got the concentrated black area in the middle of it?
It's not just fingers. It can't just be fingerprints, Phil, because...
I was suggesting that it could be just fingerprints. No. So is there an applicative technological aspect maybe to these filler stones? Did they need to be heated to put them in? I'm not sure whether that apply, but maybe there was some sort of technological aspect to this if we're looking outside the box as well.
Sure. I mean, there could have been a little bit of darkening from oils in people's hands, and you could say, oh, well, them rubbing it has made it smooth. I don't think so. I think this is more that the pitting is concentrating like we saw at Easter Island. I mean, there's not that many people rubbing on it at Easter Island, is there, Phil? It's out in the field. It's out in a field on the beach. So this is like the way that they're concentrating and focusing around the filler stones. They're also adjusting their surface treatment.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So we will reiterate the point that these are more of a micro block than a filler stone on this video, because obviously many of you may not have seen the filler stones before or even heard of them. So whilst we're introducing them, it is important to know the variation of these filler stones, and these are more of a micro block than the larger filler stones that we've been looking at.
That's right, yeah. And we have a few more angles of this one, varying qualities. One from Hugh Newman, Megalithomania.
Shout out to Hugh.
So you can see, again, really tight fitment all the way across. It's set in there perfectly. And another one that shows the color very well. You can see the darkening and the pitting, how it radiates outward, and you get more pitted as it goes away.
And the fitment is just second to none, isn't it? It's second to none.
Really
I mean, there is one that's identical to this over in Egypt, believe it or not, and that's very, very, very good as well, and a micro block too. So we'll take a look at that shortly.
And I believe there is one more of these at the Coricancha. This would definitely be a micro block, guys. So here again, in Cusco, I believe this is also still the Coricancha. We have an absolutely tiny, like rectangular, almost maybe pill shape, but rectangular filler stone inset in here. And
I mean, not only that, do you see on the block to the left, it's slightly inset downward.
Yeah, and you have like a stair-stepping.
No need for them to do that and then add the filler stone. It was
no.
A kind of engineering masterclass just because they could here. I mean, the fitment, again, is absolutely perfect.
Yeah, that little L shape and then it seems to like stair step a little bit here, gets down into this groove, and we've shown in previous episodes, Phil, that there are these tiny little rectangular holes in the Coricancha structures.
Absolutely.
And they form patterns, and they go up the walls, and they might go towards other features like pinch holes and nubs. Maybe that's what this is about.
We looked at in our Coricancha video, just digressing slightly, the singular ornate nub that we described it as at the Coricancha, but now we'll show on a new video with the nubs that it isn't just singular and ornate, it's actually surrounded by a hell of a lot more than we didn't realise.
Exactly.
But that's for another episode anyway.
Sure, but that's kind of like bringing all the hallmarks together, and that's a whole other video. But yeah, this was another marker. Maybe it was one of these other rectangular holes, though, like the other part of their design.
Those rectangular holes where the microblock filler stones.
Some of them may be infrastructure, but other ones may have been for these little filler stones, and they've just fallen out. That's another thing to consider. Yeah,
absolutely.
Excellent example. Thank you to Ziggy for showing us this. And then one more to close out Peru. We've got a lot of examples, but we're trying to go pretty quick today. Maybe we'll go to the Chulpa Towers too, but this one I think you found, Phil, and we got to point this one out. So this one, you have a larger square block, maybe slightly rectangular block, and you'd say, okay, well, I could see maybe that being a filler stone. It's kind of a central focal point, and these other larger stones are around it.
Also within an L-shaped block to the right, isn't it?
It is, yes, and there's nubs around, but you took it a step further. Zoom in, get close, get really close, and there's another. We would classify this again as a micro block.
As a micro block, and above it you've got the two nubs and almost the bevel line at the bottom.
Again, with the processing, you can see the processing kind of focuses around the filler stone. It gets real smooth around the filler stone.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff.
We've seen that now in Easter Island, in Peru, in Cusco. It's not just one place. I mean, we're going to show this worldwide.
Yeah. So. Now, there may be like some cracking going on, right, settling, causing little slivers of rock to form. Then, you kind of get confused with some of those. But this is clearly settling. It's not a nice shape, not a geometric shape. This is like a natural cracking shape. Whereas this is definitely not a natural cracking shape. This was cut out, chiseled out.
Block, isn't it?
Yes, that was formed for that little block to be put there. So that'll pretty much close up Peru. I think we have one more to show, just the Chulpa Towers, just to know they're all over. In Silistani, like before at the Ahu or the platform.
There's actually more than one on here as well. I mean, I wonder if you can see straight off the bat the one at the bottom.
Of course.
There's one at the top right and one at the top left.
That's right, by the figure. Now, see, that's again. Now,
no need for them to do that. These are purposeful, and the blocks were made to keep these in place, and there's no reason for them other than that the builders were showing us that they could do them. Yeah, like a focal point, or to preserve that block for whatever reason from earthquake, to make sure that block stayed in place, Or I find it quite interesting that the filler stones are on a block that's got the animal carving. Exactly. Right. And it's like with the nubs and the other examples, right? So if this was created like a nub, who knows, the 3D relief carvings, but it's definitely one of the features that they wanted to highlight. So they put these around it to enshrine it, to focus your attention on it. So next we will go over to Egypt, and we have a few examples, and you guys can check some of these in your own time. They're all on the OneDrive again in the Filler Stones folder, from the Great Pyramid and the Well Shaft, the Elephantine Island Nilometers, and some other temples maybe. Okay, so we're going to focus on the Osirion, because the Osirion has some of the most clear-cut examples of filler stones and microblocks. So the first photo is in the corner, where we're going to see a couple hallmarks overlapping. You'll see that there's a nub on one of the blocks right away. So you should be looking in other areas around the nub for other hallmarks. There's a block that goes around the corner, like we were talking about in Machu Picchu just a minute ago. So again, 2 hallmarks. And then, obviously, a filler stone. So there you are, 3 hallmarks. It's not quite a micro block, this one, is it? It's more like a filler stone. And while we're on, thanks to LAH, courtesy of your excellent channel, for this brilliant photograph. Agreed. You can even see a pitted middle on the nub, which shows a different surface treatment on the block. But the Philistone itself, I mean, the fitament's perfect. You can see the L shape at the top has been smoothed around and taken out, just like the other examples.
Just like
you can even see almost like a bevel line on the block next to it that continues round to the corner.
Agreed. Yeah. So it's
an excellent photo, that is.
Yeah, this is really good quality. So you can tell that it's the L shape again, just like the other sites. The nub again, the block going around the corner, and then the filler stone. Very deliberate. The same mineralogy again at the corner of this block. And you might even...
You can see the purposeful L shape on that block as well. There was no need for them to take that out of there.
No.
Seems a global technique as well to take that L shape out and either add a filler stone or another polygonal stone around it, sometimes into a corner block. And then we're almost seeing a filler stone or micro block, as we can call them now, next to that hallmark as well.
So next we'll go down the wall a little bit, where there is another, and this is a really good close-up, again, from the LAH Russian researchers.
And I think we can safely say that this has got to count uncategorically as a micro block. There's 2 or 3 things going on here, exactly the same as a Coricancha. You've got the smooth ridge bevel line that goes around the L-shaped block.
Yes.
Incorporated with a very fine micro filler stone. Now the fitament, because of the stone type, doesn't look quite as tight, but believe you me, that fitament is perfect.
The shadow gives it away a little bit, you know, but it's we have other angles. This is just the best close-up. Here's a better context of what we're looking at here. So this is the back wall of the Osirion, the one that has the faint nubs on it and the puffy blocks. Well, you can see in this photo, looking through one of the megalithic doorways, more of the filler stones. The one we were just looking at, and then above it, we have even more. And this one is very deliberate. Just
almost got a filler stone and then a micro block next to it.
I'm not sure
exactly what we're saying here.
Right. I'm not sure if that's a crack in the filler stone, or if this is 2 separate filler stones, which is...
Absolutely, yeah.
It makes it even more complex at that point. You know, this is an even more complex statement.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Yeah, but it's the same process again, just like we've been looking at. The corner's been cut out.
You can see this big bevel line above the polygonal nature. You get that almost around all of them, don't you?
That's right. So then we'll go to another angle here.
Jumps out at you here. The one thing that you see is more than one nub. We used to call these the blown out nubs or inverted nubs.
That's right.
And then you've got the square natured nubs, which is important to actually say, because different regions tend to show different style aspects to their nubs. But you know, we could quickly just go on to the portcullis chamber, which is a standardized circular nub. So there's different variants of nubs within Egypt, isn't there, Andrew?
Right, and right next to each other. So we have these faint ones that you could almost say are almost Peruvian, but then you have something very square here, you know, and that's more Greco.
A very small filler stone to the right-hand side. Look how small that is. You
Again,
almost not notice that, and I think categorically you've got to call that a micro block as well.
I think so.
Fitment.
Yeah.
There's one above it as well, on the block above it to the right-hand side.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's more of a filler stone, as it were.
A magnitude bigger, right? 1 order of magnitude bigger. And then below it is another one, a little more slender.
Yeah.
But they're all kind of, you know, they're almost...
They're different shaped filler stones or micro blocks, but...
Yeah, each one.
Incorporated near enough on every block here with other hallmarks around them.
Yeah, they're very unique, and each one's kind of quirky, but they're all following the same rules. So then we have another angle here. This one, I believe, Phil, you showed me. This one's really good.
From the megalithic marble, so thank you very much indeed for the high-resolution quality photo.
Yes.
And you can see multiple different filler stones here hiding from you.
Oh, yeah, they're real hard to see at first. You have to zoom in, and, you know, the quality starts to break down, so we won't get too close, but you have a long rectangular one, a smaller rectangular one, the long rectangular one down here, and then a very interesting, you know, trapezoidal shape, or almost...
I mean, that more looks like a Peruvian example, for want of a better word.
That is.
Very South American in
that is.
nature. These blocks almost identical with the filler stones as what we saw at the Coricancha, obviously slightly bigger than that, of course.
Yeah, but that's a great point. It's the angling of the sides, very reminiscent of that Coricancha microblock.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a few more peppered throughout the Osirion. That's some of the best photos we have. Next we'll pull up Ethiopia, because there's a really good example here that looks just like, again, the Coricancha in Peru. It's not quite square. It's got some different angles to it, but it's
also the Osirion at Egypt.
Yeah, exactly.
These micro blocks are very, very similar.
Very similar. Yeah, and again, the focus of polygonal stonework, right? It's the polygonal stonework radiates around it. You have an L shape there, that block. Clearly the same phenomenon again.
Absolutely. Does it indicate the same builders to you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Is this fluke? Is it coincidence? We're now looking at the four corners of the earth here, and we'll show you even more compelling evidence to these. Now, these micro blocks have now appeared not only in Ethiopia, Egypt, Peru. We're going to show the filler stones are global, and this is just the four corners of the world at the moment that we're showing you.
Mm-hmm. That's right, and right there in Aksum, right next door, same structure, in a chamber, we have nubbed basins or nubbed boxes. Coffers, coffins, what do you want to call these? One of them has nubs on it. So, again, overlapping hallmarks, same site.
I mean, even the walls of polygonal nature, and you've also got filler stones to the right-hand side at the bottom.
I think some of those might be. You're right. They might. I mean, some of it looks damaged. There might be a filler stone. And I thought I saw one in the back wall, this vertical rectangle. That might be a filler stone as well. So, I mean, the quality isn't greatest in here. It's hard to get photos from here, but clearly in the wall next to this in the hallway, we have one. So, yeah. Next we'll go to Turkey, where we have a ton of examples, and we don't have enough time today to go through all of the examples in Turkey.
Yeah, we'll just show you a few of the best examples in Turkey. Seems to be a hotbed for every single ancient art, and we would be here all day if we were to show you everything in Turkey we have. But as Andrew has pointed out earlier on, you're all welcome to access the Ancient History Criticisms Trust, which is a collection of the ancient hallmarks by the team, myself, Andrew, that we add to daily, and you're welcome to add to as well as part of your own research. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we've actually gotten a few photos just before filming this, so we're always getting new photos. So one example we really want to talk about is Arikonda. We love this site for multiple reasons. It has nubbed boxes, polygonal stonework, but it also has the filler stone phenomenon. So first let me show you the context photo of what we're looking at. So you have the nubbed box, you have nubs on the base below the box, so it's not just a lifting phenomenon, even if these are for that. They are representative underneath in more of an esoteric way. And then you have obviously the polygonal stonework, you can see that. Below that, there's a clear filler stone. Now let's point out though, the precision isn't that great. It is a different color.
It's more of a cyclopean nature, doesn't it? Almost
it does.
Like it's been thrown together.
Yeah, I mean, it still looks like it's deliberate because, I mean, that void had to have been filled by something. And then you see over here where there's something missing. Likely a filler stone fell out from there. But these are these small pockets. If they look chiseled out and carved out deliberately to accept another stone, more than likely there was an original filler stone that went there.
I mean, the box is almost far too detailed for the actual surround, isn't it? You've got almost like a beveled, standardized nub shape, beveled, and with the nubs underneath it. Was that taken there for a specific reason? Later date? Was it meant to be there?
Good question.
You know, good question. But in context to what we're going to be looking at with the filler stone, the archway behind,
yes,
kind of where we're going to look at our filler stones today.
So you look from another angle, you get inside of this, and this is very deliberate, very clear cut. These are primary original filler stones. Here we have one with the L shape cut out again. It's a little bit lighter mineralogy on this, but I'm pretty sure that's an original feature. And then right around the corner you have another one of the same colored mineralogy, and maybe even a third one. And then above, a slightly larger one, but again, it's a focal point of the polygonal architecture.
One thing to point out here is the stonework isn't quite of the same standard as you're going to see in the Peruvian examples, if
True.
we can say Peru for now,
True.
and the Egyptian examples. However, the hallmark is still prevalent at this point, so it's important to show you the different variations of hallmark within the filler stones and microblocks. So completely relevant.
I mean, I think that maybe as the precision increases, you can achieve those micro blocks, but in this kind of rough and ready format they're using, you were limited to larger filler stones.
Yeah.
So we only want to highlight a few today, right, guys? So we've got plenty we're not going to have time to look at, but we want to pick a few of the best ones. The next one is Andriake.
Probably one of our favorite examples worldwide, this one.
Yeah.
I mean, straight away off the bat, as Hallmark fans and people that have followed us for a while, you've got a variation of them all here. You've got nubs, you've got bevel blocks, and to be honest, it's quite difficult initially to spot the filler stone, but in this example, it's identical to the Easter Island example.
Yeah, and you might be looking at some of the vertical stones or the square holes looking for it. No, it's not that. Zoom in a little bit more over here to the arch. There it is, the lighter colored stone there. Inset in the corner, like Phil said, just like Peru, just like Silustani, just like Easter Island.
And this specific filler stone has bevel edge blocks around it this time, rather than the polygonal nature that you've been seeing in different sites, for example, Coricancha and so on and so forth, and the South American examples. It's different natured stonework. This is more bevel-edged work.
Standardized square blocks, none of not too much. Maybe there's a few instances of polygonal around here, but for the most part in this construction, it's just square blocks. But you have...
goes to show they didn't need to do the polygonal natured aspect.
Yes.
They could do all the hallmarks, and they didn't need to do them if they didn't want to.
Yeah, they could change their style. I mean, this is a nub down here on this beveled block. It's very shallow bevel with a pitted middle, but there's a nub there. This big thing up here.
The most refined version of that we see with the bevel edge and...
Yeah, right.
In the middle is almost the Levi Mausoleum examples that we've shown on prior examples.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, very faint. Sometimes they invert to where the lipped edge sticks out more than the middle. But you mean that you can even call that a nub? I'm calling that a nub. I mean, you don't need that to lift that there. That's there esoterically. It's not a broken off part of this, I don't think. I mean, it could be. It could be an ornamental detail that's missing. But with these other little traces down here, it makes me think it might be an esoteric nub.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially with these other hallmarks around with like the filler stones. If you want to get into polygonal stuff, we have a couple great examples in Turkey of polygonal stuff. First is Catiorin. Now, I did a video on this site. You can check that out for the overview. Today we're going to focus on some of these details in here. I mean, first of all, these blocks are all over the place. I mean, this is about as polygonal as far as the angular stuff as you can get. I mean, you can get more of the puffy stuff in Peru, but I mean, this is just as complex.
And every bit of the polygonal stonework comes from the filler stone hallmark. Seems as if they base every angle of the stone from a filler stone. Yeah,
like tiny one here that's very angled. All these others socket into it. Other ones like down here, you can count them all day in this photo. And some of them are hard to even consider. Do you classify it as a filler stone? Is it too big to be a filler stone? Is it just part of the normal masonry at that point? I mean, especially in the corner where they get really small and complicated. But like this one here, this square one, and like you said again, the polygonal work radiates around it. So it's a focal point. This little triangular one here above the lintel. I mean, all day long you could find them at Catiorin. At the top there, another square one. Yeah, and it's incorporated into the bedrock. It's very solid. Again, yes, that is earthquake proof, but there's more going on here than just that. There's more to be said. It's a much...
Maybe a set of pinch holes at the bottom there, right at the bottom.
You might be right. Yeah, I see that. And some of this other cavitation. That's very interesting around the bedrock. And you can tell it's the exact same mineralogy as the masonry as well. Great example. And then another site that is very similar in its construction and is very hard to say. Pydnai, Pydnai. This site is amazing. We found this recently.
Better attempt than what I would have had, so I'm not going to bother with that one.
But I mean, it leaves you speechless just looking at it, doesn't it? Look at that.
I mean, this photo here, it tells you one of two things, doesn't it? A, have they actually excavated low enough because the header of the door is so small?
Good point.
But the polygonal nature here, there's 2 or 3 examples that you could use as filler stones here, but the main one is to the left of the header.
Yeah, that one sticks
out.
out.
You can see where the 2 blocks have had that L shape almost taken out of it and the purposeful filler stone in between.
That's right.
There are other examples here above the header on the other block, but we can't be sure on the quality exactly whether that's a broken off piece or what was going on. But
agreed.
Again, like Catiorin, this is as polygonal natured as you're going to get around a filler stone, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's other gaps where it's like across the joinery where there could have been filler stones. Others that are kind of more roughly, crudely inset that may be later. But, you know, all these little square gaps and things here, I mean, something had to go in there. And obviously from these other examples, they thought about that and compensated for that in their original design by adding the filler stones.
Absolutely.
Others that might radiate around more polygonal work. And then, yeah, some of these just weird small blocks. Again, it kind of gets into the minutia of what's a filler stone and what's a regular block. But, yeah, very interesting wall. And I have one more photo of that. It might be the opposite side. And here, definitely, Phil, we do have a pinch hole.
Pinch holes, yeah.
So, yeah,
100%.
between Catiorin and this site, you know, looking at that other one, I would classify that as a pinch hole to compare it to this. I mean, the exact same architecture.
Again, the polygonal nature
Yeah.
all radiates from filler stones all the way
Again,
around.
yeah, like spirals out even. So, very deliberate, very esoteric. So next we're going to jump over to Italy. We have a couple good examples here. A few different places. There's Pigra, Polygonali. These might all be in the Norba region. I'm pretty sure they're almost identical stonework. So we're going to look at this first one that I believe, Phil, you found.
Yeah, I think this one reminded me of the South American work with the triangular style natured filler stone. And look at the shape of the block around it. They didn't need to cut that shape like that, did they? You know,
No.
The polygonal natured aspect. It almost looks as if the fitment's not quite as good, but that could be down to weathering or conditional aspects within Italy.
Sure, settling and maybe earthquake as well, right?
I mean, we could look at the point it could be a cargo cult that has copied what they've seen, but begs the point.
That's a good point.
Bought the polygonal nature and copied it in Italy.
Yeah, it could be that it was a later builders trying to replicate the more precision work, or this could just be a rough and ready kind of cyclopean style of the megalithic original builders.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, but definitely the filler stone was deliberate and chosen here around the L-shaped blocks, just like the other examples. And we have more photos. This is, I want to say it's the same site. It looks almost identical, but it's definitely in Italy still.
What you can notice is the variation of filler stone, almost micro filler stones in this example.
Yeah.
You've got very small natured filler stones, the triangular ones, the polygonal nature. So in one photo alone, we've got many hallmarks here, as we do in most, don't we, Andrew?
Over here on the left as well. It's like it radiates around the filler stone again. Down on the right, another one across 2 blocks. It's neat to have like a larger triangle and then a smaller triangle next to it. We'll see something like that in India in a minute as well. So we have one more photo from this area. I love this photo. I put it on Twitter a lot. What goes around comes around. It's probably my favorite.
Absolutely. It's
probably my favorite graffiti, right? It's only appropriate graffiti you could put on this. But yeah, it's the same again. The triangular stones inset along with some other rectangular stones as well. And I mean, it's obviously the same polygonal stonework. You have.
Before you look at this as well, there are other aspects, Andrew. You've got almost like a bevel-edged nature to the blocks.
I was about to say, that's exactly right.
We've got another hallmark as well. It could be that there's pinch holes here too. I mean, it remains to be seen, but they do look like pinch holes there.
Yeah, the pairing of holes, if they loop around through, you know, that's a full pinch hole. Sometimes it's just a couple of divots, but this is, again, that's another feature of this masonry, of this architecture. Everywhere we go, we find the pinch holes, just like we do the nubs and the filler stones.
Bevel blocks, the polygonal stone, agreed.
Yeah, it's all this
hallmarks on each site worldwide, and we try to bring you each hallmark in videos, Andrew and I, and with the more evidence that we get, we'll produce more videos, the better photographs we get. So thank you to you all for sending your versions in.
That's right. Yeah, this one's been going around making the rounds on the internet for a while, but we have those others now to give it a little bit more context and better quality. And then a great one that Ziggy Dan showed us, Segni. Love this example because it shows multiple eras. You have the later, cruder work on top of just rough stone and mortar. It gets more precise as it goes down into regular standard course work, but below that, at the foundational level, the same builders, the polygonal, megalithic, filler stone builders.
And the one thing that you notice about the filler stone here, it's almost identical to the one that we saw in Easter Island at the beginning.
The rectangle on the corner again.
Yeah, it is the triangular natured blocks here.
Sure.
The kind of filler stone is that rectangular filler stone that we kind of saw in Easter Island examples.
Agreed. And it's almost like this is the first primary layer of extra large blocks. And then above that, they kind of went more refined. It's still the same.
Like a base stone layer, isn't it?
Yeah.
Layer, and then, as you say, it went more refined as they built up.
Yeah.
It's been interesting to see that in its glory day, how far up it went and what it was.
Sure, yeah. I mean, was any of this upper standard course masonry part of the original design? I mean, it squares off very straight, right? But that could have been the top of the original wall. We don't know. I mean, it's obviously a very big difference, a drastic shift in their design, if it is the original builders still. But we see no nubs. I mean, the precision is good. We don't know what kind of blocks these are. If these blocks were recycled, I have a feeling up here, yeah, they probably recycled all this and made this little pattern out of them because they didn't have enough. And then above that, they had to use rubble, basically. So, wonder what the original design really was.
Agreed.
And then we'll jump out of Italy and go over to India, where we have a couple really good examples.
Probably one of my favourite sites to study because of the volume, the sheer volume of hallmarks that we can find in India.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And at Hampi, here's a great example.
And the one thing that jumps out at you on here is the filler stones are a different mineralogy, a different colour to the polygonal natured work around it.
That's right. Yeah, again, like a focal point. They want you to notice these filler stones. And you can even see down the bottom. Maybe it tapers. Like we said in Italy, you had the larger triangle and the smaller triangle. Here you've got a larger rhombus or parallelogram, and then a smaller square. And then maybe that tapers down into even smaller micro blocks. The fitment isn't so, the fitment isn't so great. So you can't get down to that level, that precision. But, for what the precision level is, these are deliberate. These were inset. Some of these other ones you might question, broken off bits or later inserted just to shore up the wall. But these two, for sure, you can't argue. Those are original features.
Agreed.
And then we have another example that you really can't argue with. The Vitala Temple at Hampi again. This is a really large photo. I had to pull it off of the internet. The gate itself is very impressive, but the surrounding wall, it's slightly polygonal, has these like long rectangular slabs that have different angles to them. And what do you see right in the middle? A filler stone. In the exact same configuration again as Easter Island and the other examples. On the corner, inset.
It's like a bevel line nature to the blocks underneath it, although
yes,
it's slightly distorted. You can definitely make out the bevel edge line around the filler stone. And like Andrew points out, this filler stone in India is an identical shape to the Easter Island one. So were they the same builders?
Yeah, good question.
For you to decide, we can give you the evidence, but it certainly looks like the masonry was put together in identical ways, wasn't it?
Really was. I mean, this is the same symbolism across all these sites. They're choosing to select a specific stone and inset it and make it part of a larger tapestry of masonry hallmarks. And that's the only one in this wall. If you go over to the other side, I don't see any others. I see slender stones, vertical stones, but I don't see any inset like I did on the right. So this is a deliberate choice over here to put that one stone in there. And in a maybe not so prominent place, but for anyone looking like you or I or other researchers, we're going to notice if we look hard enough.
Yeah.
We have a couple more. They're step wells. Some of them are better quality than others. Shout out to our friend on Twitter, Fluently Eccentric, who has brought us a lot of these.
Fully fledged member of our team, might I add. And
yes.
His nub work is absolutely exquisite. He's fantastic at what he does.
Yes.
And these step wells here, Andrew, I mean, it's the sheer volume of different variations of filler stone that we see.
Yeah, agreed. You have
there's the micro block, there's the filler stones, the perfect fitment, polygonal stone that actually works around a staircase, which is phenomenal work.
Yeah, even more impressive the fact they fit it into the stairs like this. But you're right, different colors, mineralogies, a red stone, white stone, and then this long, slender one down here, a couple over here. They're all over the place. Yeah.
Fantastic example.
Yeah. So we've got a lot we could look at, but we don't want to keep you guys here all day long. We have a couple we don't necessarily know where they are. We aren't sure.
I'd like to ask your help on these ones. We've tried to reverse engineer these images. We've got a good idea where they are, but the final couple of images that we're going to look at today are two of the most intriguing.
Yeah.
And we'll leave the last one as a complete surprise to you guys, as it was to us.
Agreed.
But the first one that we're going to look at, we believe that this is the Acropolis that it's actually labelled as, but the stonework does not jump out as Acropolis stonework to us.
No, it's too rough. This looks more like Turkey than the Acropolis of Athens.
It does, yeah. First thing that I notice, Andrew, is that we've got bevel edge blocks and nub blocks here. Mm-hmm. Before we even get to the filler stones, there's the polygonal sort of nature to these. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit more squared off than what you would see in South American examples in Peru. Yeah. But there is definitely a polygonal natured aspect. The L shapes taken out of the corners.
Yeah, right. L shapes. Probably more in this wall too. I mean, it could be an Acropolis, but I don't believe this is the Athens Acropolis. It has the feeling of Turkey. I mean, again, you might be seeing some pinch holes and pairings of holes, the way the bedrock might be incorporated. This goes down further. There's more blocks, so this could go down further. A doorway as well looks like that should be enlarged, like the other example we saw. So,
yeah, agreed.
So yeah, and that's even before getting to the filler stones. Maybe even nubs on some of the ends of these bevels as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a nub block for me, that one. Or a puffy bevel block, a very puffy bevel block. Right. And where do we see that? The Kurgan of Kirch, the Royal Kurgan of Kirch.
Where it morphs for almost,
it kind of morphs the surface treatment from bevel edge blocks into nubs into a flat surface treatment. For those of you that know the Royal Kurgan of Kirch.
Same thing here. It's getting more beveled in areas, flatter in other areas. And then, definitely at least a couple filler stones. Again, this one is at the corner, cut out with a little bit of an overhang. The one below that is split between, bisects the joinery of two blocks. So two blocks had to have L shapes cut out to fit that one in. Okay, guys, we almost forgot. We wanted to include Greece. There's actually a few in Greece and some pretty good examples. One Phil found the other day. In Argolis, there's the pyramid there, the pyramid of Hellenikon. We see triangular filler stones again.
The polygonal nature is there, how they've shaped these blocks. Mm-hmm. Absolutely beautiful. And you can see that they've taken that L shape out to incorporate these filler stones. And let's put this into context. This pyramid, even by written historical narrative, is older than the Great Pyramid. So these filler stones, these polygonal natured aspects, were being used far before the Egyptian pyramids were being built, where you've already seen the micro blocks, the polygonal stonework. Mm-hmm. So these hallmarks are incorporated in pretty much every ancient site worldwide, aren't they, Andrew?
That's right. If we're going, even
the most ancient of the stone that we see as well.
Sure. If we're going by the mainstream narrative, I mean, the Osirian, this site, the Peruvian sites, I mean, which one is the oldest? How far does this go back? I think it goes back pretty much all the way to the beginning of this style of stonework.
Agreed. Me too.
And maybe some pinch holes, and you see the pitting and the pairs of holes again.
Well, where the filler stones turn up, we're finding the pinch holes, the bevel blocks, and the nubs pretty much.
And these do have bevels.
Well, I did hunt for the nubs on this site, and they weren't there. I couldn't find any anyway.
And I think it's too rough. I think, again, maybe like those Italian walls, it's too rough for them to create nubs on this surface.
Yeah.
But, definitely they had the ability to put filler stones in. Triangular again.
The fitment's crazy as well, isn't it? I mean,
it is.
Like brilliant again.
Yeah, I mean, it's very cyclopean. We say that it's like a rough and ready stacked version of the megalithic architecture, but it still fits very well together. I mean, they had the ability to fill in these areas here very precisely with these filler stones. down here as well. That one down there fits very well. I mean,
you may have a pinch hole in the centre on that block where it comes away from the filler stone.
You see all these little pits and things and circular holes there? Yeah, what is all that about? Is that part of the processing? I think it is. So, and these do have beveled edge corners. I don't have a great photo, but they get very refined on the edges of the pyramid, down to beveled edge lines. Delphi, of course, we have to say something about Delphi. So first, this amazing textured wall with nubs at the bottom. I mean, this is just...
And you've got to look at the shape of those nubs. These are square aspected nubs, which generally we do find in Greece. We'll show on other videos that you get different shaped nubs that look regionally into different avenues, i.e. when we were in Egypt earlier on, we saw the square nub, didn't we?
A lot like this one. Yeah, this one almost looks identical to that square as far as proportion to the block. Some of these others as well.
Does, yeah.
Yeah, great point. And then you zoom in, right? This, first of all, the nubs, the texturing, all that, the coloring is amazing. Zoom in, a filler stone up here, where the processing surface treatment changes. It gets smooth again around the filler stone, just like the other examples.
Excellent example that one is, because you see the surface treatment so prevalent with all the other blocks, and then the smooth nature of the filler stone in the centre. It's crazy.
Yeah, right around all the smooth blocks, you have the smooth area with the filler stone. Yeah, love that photo. One of my favorite photos of Greece. Hard to find this photo. It's the only one, really. And then Eleusis had a good one. So, at Eleusis, we have clamps. That's another hallmark. We need to make a video on these clamps. We're collecting these as well. They're at almost every site where these hallmarks are. You see the polygonal stonework again on the surrounding wall. I maybe even see a pair of holes. Look below it.
Definitely maybe a slight bevel edge nature to the top.
I see that again as well. Yeah, they chose around that one to bevel it really well. The other ones aren't beveled so well. Some of them are. Some of them back there are.
It's a very similar shape to the Easter Island filler stone as well, isn't it?
Again, on the corner, they cut out that L shape to fit that block in. Same mineralogy again. Yeah. I mean, the more you look at them, the more identical they all look. Great shot. And then, is there one more? I think we wanted to look at, there's two actually, Sipnos and Thoricus. They're almost identical looking sites. Really wide slabs again, like we saw at Hampi. Slightly polygonal with little L's cut out and other little, slender blocks fit in. And
when you look closely though, you almost struggle to see them. They're loads of filler stones in this example.
Tons more. The more as you go up, like with that Italian example, the blocks get smaller, the precision gets better. So this was like a foundational level maybe, and then they focused and got a little tighter up here. And yes, up in this area where the precision gets better, you have the ability to put these filler stones in, and it's the same mineralogy again, the same placements, the exact same. And then we'll jump over to the other site because it is. I mean, I got confused at first. Thoricus.
They look very similar, don't they? These.
Oh, exactly the same kind of stonework. This long slabs with angled cuts, slightly polygonal. You zoom in, you get real close, you see filler stones. This one actually wraps around the corner even, on this corner.
Yeah.
Wild stuff. And the colors of the blocks are really cool and match.
You've got to remember the weight of some of those blocks as well. It's absolutely enormous.
Yeah, the real wide ones like that, right. So yeah, very good example. Across sites, you get them confused. So there's a few more in Greece, but we can be in there for days. But we would like to close up today with
one of the best images we've come across for the filler stones in the world.
Yeah, very mysterious.
One of the best megalithic sites actually. There's no boxes found there as well, some steeped in history, and we now come across to Japan.
Yes. So we don't know exactly where in Japan this is, but this is one of the kofuns, one of those megalithic dolmens, and those vary in terms of precision. Sometimes they're very square, regular blocks or megaliths. Some of them are just cyclopean boulders piled together.
But you could relate this to Catiorin, you could relate this to some of the Italian work we've seen, you could relate this to the South American work with how the blocks have been cut out. See how they're numbered around that block?
These are not our numbers.
Looked at with the microfiller stones, it was Ollantay Tambo.
That's right. This is the photographer put all these labels on here, so they were looking at the same things. They noticed these things.
Absolutely, and I'd like to put it out there that if anybody out there knows exactly where this is, we'd love to hear in the comments exactly where this photo was taken so we can study it more and get better angles inside there and have a look what was on the outside of it as well.
Yeah, we do not know, and we would love to know. So if anybody has any insights or leads onto where this could be, we need to put this in an official folder in context. I mean, it tapers up and is like a dome, so you've got, three-dimensional shaping going on the interior spaces. It's not just flat walls. And then 15 angles on that, 15 angles on this one. I mean, I wonder how many more in Peru might have 15 angles, and if that's a reoccurring thing. So he's put 13 down here on this one, and many of these other ones probably have close to those as well.
And the amount of L shapes that have been taken out to incorporate perfect filler stones from micro to normal shapes, and the polygonal aspect. These are cut precision straight cut blocks, aren't they?
Yeah.
Showing exactly the same as what we were seeing in Peru. Maybe less the nub incorporation, of course, but certainly the detailed aspect within the polygonal work and how they work out from the filler stone into the polygonal nature is identical, isn't it, Andrew?
Right. There's not many nubs in the masonry of Japan. You do see nubs on their boxes and box lids. But in terms of the walls, the retaining walls, castle walls, you almost never ever see nubs. I only have maybe 1 or 2 photos of nubbed polygonal castle walls, and it's only maybe one nub, and it's arguable. So it's something that they just chose not to use or utilize in Japan, but every other hallmark is here. So, yeah.
Which I find very strange, to be quite honest with you.
Agreed. The lack of nubs is strange. I mean, you've got the beveling, everything else is here. And maybe not pinch holes either. So maybe there's something to nubs and pinch holes, right? Yeah, maybe an energy that's being put out between nubs and pinches that maybe they didn't use in this application.
Agreed.
Yeah.
There's one thing while we're here that we must say is that these episodes Andrew and I do, we get a lot of help from the team that we work with. Massive shout out to them. And in specific today, we'd like to say a huge thank you to Justin, who puts in such hard work in the team and is absolutely excellent in all natures of ancient history, but he does a lot with the filler stones. And some of the terminology Andrew and I use, i.e. filler stones, the ancient hallmarks, the nubs, the bevel blocks, we've come up with this terminology so that you guys may better understand it. And Santo Bartes, who works with our team, he coined the phrase the micro block, which we think is an excellent term for the much smaller filler stone with the really tight filaments that you've all seen today in Egypt and Peru, the Coricancha, just for a couple of examples. So thanks very much, Santo, for all you do for the team and for, your exquisite work on the ancient hallmarks. When we talk to you guys about you can do what we do and have access to the catalogues, this guy took it to the nth degree and he's one of the better researchers I've ever come across. So excellent work to Justin for your knowledge, and you, Santo. Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Yeah, because otherwise it's just, a couple of us going back and forth with terms and details and what we think it looks like, and getting a better roundtable discussion with other people who are just as knowledgeable, if not more, in some areas. We really brainstorm and come to the best conclusions for what to call these, how to describe them. We don't always have the best terminology right away. I was going to call pinch holes anchor holes, but I thought that might be a little bit wrongly persuasive, and you might look for things to be anchored by them. So I just went with something a little more vague.
There as well that initially people notice nubs as knobs, but in the English-speaking language, it's actually looked at as not the greatest of words. So we coined the phrase the nubs because I think it shows them in a better frame than what knobs does.
Yeah.
And there's only a couple of people now that use that terminology. Pretty much everyone world knows us as the nub
Yeah.
people, don't they, Andrew? And knows
Yeah.
the nubs is the nub. So,
Yeah.
you know, you're welcome to use your own terminology. The
Sure.
Hallmark folders that we possess have got the names that we use for them. But if there's anything better that you think that we can use, then by all means, you're welcome to put in the comments what you think the Hallmark should be called. But
yeah. Yeah, we're not trademarking any of these terms or anything. It's just, you know, other languages have other ways to describe these as well. So there's a translation issue sometimes. So just a simple, easy, kind of vague term that kind of gets you into the concept. You know, we're not really defining them too deeply yet because we still don't know the process that creates a lot of this stuff. So we got to be kind of, you've got to kind of broad in your descriptions in the beginning. So yeah,
and we'd welcome any of the researchers that have looked into masonry to a high level as we have to pretty much each ancient site in the world. We're probably on our fourth or fifth time round and finding more and more hallmarks and more to each site every single time we go around it. We've got specifically good, which we said earlier on, find for the Coricancha to show you in an episode coming up. We've got Baalbek episodes now with brand new nub finds that
that's right.
Literally we need to work on as soon as possible. But can we thank all of you for taking the time to look into the ancient hallmarks with Andrew and I? We really do appreciate it. You can find us over at Twitter. All our videos are on Odyssey and on YouTube as well. So thank you very much, guys, for watching. And we look forward to speaking to you again with the next lot of ancient hallmarks. And we'll see you all again soon. Thanks very much today, Andrew.
Thank you.
Another brilliant episode with yourself. And obviously we'll work together again very soon. Thank you.
And this will be an ongoing series, hopefully to collect and get into a encyclopedia of ancient hallmarks, and really happy to get this one out to you guys because we've seen it mentioned in a lot of other researchers' videos, but it's never been classified as a complete hallmark and catalog to this kind of detail. So thank you guys for listening to us today, and we will talk to you next time.